I think when you live in the dominant population, which then has been receiving dominant privileges, there's almost an option to live without the treaty. However, acknowledging Te Tiriti or Waitangi acknowledges a responsibility and actually requires us to accept we're not meant to be dominant. We're meant to be in partnership. We're meant to be supporting one another. We're meant to be acknowledging a people group that were here before us.
This is Down to Earth Conversations, where we hear from ordinary people who are helping to bring a bit of heaven down to earth. Kia ora, welcome to another episode of Down to Earth Conversations. I'm Andy Dixon, and it's so good to have you listening in for another fantastic kōrero today. If you're new to this podcast, the basic premise is that ordinary people can bring a bit of heaven down to earth by doing little things that make a positive difference in the world. And this might mean you become well known, like my last guest, Shane Claiborne, who is still actually one of the most simple living and most humble people I've ever met. Or it can mean no one outside of your little circle even knows who you are, and both are equally important. So this podcast is to inspire you and to help you think, what can I do with what I have in the spaces that I occupy to help to bring a bit of heaven down to earth? Today, it's a pleasure to introduce you to Naomi Nicholas. Naomi works for Karuwhā Trust, which translated means Four Eyes Trust, and she'll explain why as we go through the conversation. But she's part of helping to facilitate learning and understanding about Te Tiriti or Waitangi, also known as the Treaty of Waitangi, particularly amongst non-Māori, and also helping facilitate learning about many other parts of the true history of New Zealand that many of us don't know. For those of you overseas and unfamiliar with it, Te Tiriti or Waitangi is the treaty that was signed between the indigenous people of Aotearoa New Zealand, the Māori, and the British Crown in 1840. It's also a treaty that was then repeatedly breached by the colonisers, resulting in much pain and loss for Māori. Yet, understood well, it's actually a great platform from which to work towards reconciliation and even justice. There are a few Māori terms on the episode today. I've tried to capture most of them in the show notes with some translations, so if you need to, have a look there. Naomi shares about what she does in her role, what she notices about the revelations that people have on their journeys, how non-Māori can appropriately learn the true history of this nation without simply consuming and taking all over again, and what hope she sees for the future of this country. This is episode 30 of Down to Earth Conversations. Here's Naomi Nicholas. I'm here today with Naomi Nicholas from Karuwhā Trust. Kia ora, Naomi.
Kia ora, Andy. Great to be here with you.
And a lot of our listeners won't have heard of you, so do you want to just start by letting us know who you are, where you're from? Nohi a koe.
Sure. So I am from a little village in the Bay of Plenty beside the awa of Kaituna, under the maunga of Rangiuru. So it's a little village that's about half an hour from Mount Maunganui called Paengaroa. And I'm now living with my husband, Naomi Nicholas, in Papamoa.
Awesome. And you work for Karuwhā Trust. Tell us a little bit about what is Karuwhā Trust.
Yeah, so a key piece of our work is connecting people into stories and into places. So a big piece of my work is taking people that want to learn more, they want to know, okay, what are these places that we live amongst, who are the people that we live amongst, and connecting that people group with storytellers, whether it be kaumātua, queer, historians, various storytellers across Aotearoa. And we bring those people together to learn about the history of Aotearoa, the good, the bad, the ugly, and all the things in between. And also to participate in various commemorations, which we see as important historical commemorations in this land.
Yeah, cool. And it's been going since about 2005, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how did it come about?
It started with a small group of law students in Auckland. They were studying Te Tiriti or Waitangi, learning about covenant, and they wanted to see what it actually looked like on the ground. So they'd seen Waitangi in the media, but they hadn't yet been there. So Sam Carpenter and a group of his friends, fellow students, young, mid-early 20-year-olds, went up to Waitangi to experience it firsthand and realised actually this is quite different than what is being portrayed in the media.
Yeah.
And this is an important place for us as Pākehā, for us as lawyers, and we want to continue to bring other people up with us. So really small, uncomplex beginnings, and from that it's continued to go with more people that have got friends that have gone that then want to go and have recognised actually that's a really important place for our historical identity as well as our personal identity here in Aotearoa.
Yeah. It's interesting you say about how Waitangi is portrayed compared to their experience of it. I remember seeing media reports of like all this turmoil and carnage that was happening up there, and then seeing photos from friends on Facebook going, here's us and a whole lot of our mates having a picnic next to those 10 guys who are having a problem, and actually there was just like hundreds of people having this awesome time and 10 people causing a fuss, and that's what the media portrayed, was that actually this was real confrontational and combative and stuff. So good to hear that they went up and found a different experience from what they had seen in the media. And so how did you get into your role? So you're the kaiwhakahaere, which, as my te reo tutor explained, is his way of explaining it was the doer of the making things go, which is probably the literal way of saying it. But essentially, you're the manager. Is that right? You look after the place and.
Yeah, we're a really small team. So a small team with a big kaupapa. So in this role, you end up doing a whole bunch of things from just the basic admin and logistics that's involved. However, the key area of my passion and I guess why I got hired is around the haerenga. So as a trust, we also conduct research, and that's done by other members of the team. So I'm not the historian, but I'm the one that can help facilitate people engaging with these stories and just logistically getting to these other places and preparing them for this experience. It's not just a history lesson that's around, I guess, opening our hearts and our worldviews, opening ourselves up for hearing stories that might have been different from the ones that we thought we were living in. Helping people really connect on all different levels to these stories. So I got involved, it would have been about 8 years ago now. I went up to Waitangi as a participant, took a few young people with me, and I thought, this is something that I could be a part of. This is something I feel like I could commit to for the next few decades. And that's often my test for myself. I was like, is this something I could do for a long time? Can I see vision? Can I see benefit? So really, again, simple beginnings, went along and thought, actually, I could help other fellow treaty partners be a part of this story too.
You talk about other treaty partners. Are you Māori or Pākehā? Where do you fit in that partnership?
So my whānau whakapapa is Pākehā. My mum is Canadian Lebanese and my dad is from European whakapapa. Yeah, so I'm a tangata tiriti. So I'm not being non-Maori, that is my positioning with the treaty, and feel really, I guess, privileged to be in a country that has given us a place. With that comes huge responsibility that we're still learning how to actually enact day to day. But it speaks hugely to how I live on this land, how I see tangata whenua, how I relate one to another. So the tiriti really for me gives a tūranga waiwai a placement within Aotearoa.
So what motivated you as Pākehā to want to get involved in telling stories of Te Tiriti, of our land? What was it that captured you about that?
I saw the change that it had on people. I love place-based education. I love learning on the ground. There is a place for history books, and our shelves are full of them. There's a place for university, which as well, I did history at university. However, there's something really amazing that transcends when you actually have your feet on the whenua. And I wanted to help facilitate people having that experience as well. I'm fortunate that I'm in a whānau that participate in these things. However, I know that other people might not have whānau or peers that are going into these places, and wanted to, I guess, share the opportunity I've very generously been given of going into these spaces, which is all because of, the grace of different haukainga tangata whenua. So I've seen what can happen in those places, and wanted to help others, engage with it as well.
You talked about the research side of things, and I think that's a really important part of what you guys are doing, because so often I've worked in academia as well, and so often what happens in academia stays in academia, and people do this amazing research, and then the general public never reap the rewards of that or never see that, or if they do, it's not relatable for them. So what I hear you saying is that you're almost a pathway in between to unite those two, to bring the people with the research to present it in a way that connects with people on the ground. Is that sound like a good summary of what you're doing?
Absolutely. And one needs each other. So there's some great resources up on the Karuwhā website, and Samuel Carpenter is our key contributor, and also my father, Alistair Rees. And it's been amazing to see, for example, the PhD that my father did around Tauranga and Te Papa and the land block there, and actually see some practical outworkings at the moment of what can happen because of that research. And we've been able to take people, into that space, into Tauranga, from an actual practical point of view, and then say, hey, go and read this chapter, and you can learn more about it. So yeah, exactly. We're trying to bridge those two aspects of learning together.
And you say you go to different places around the country. What are some of those places that you'd regularly interact with?
So the last few years we've gone to the Waikato. We went to Taranaki for Te Pūtaki o Te Riri, stayed at the amazing pa of Parihaka. We also last year went to Te Tai Rāwhiti and stayed in Ruatoria. So everywhere we go, we're only going because we've already got relationships there. And out of those relationships, there are people that are wanting to host us, wanting to engage with our participants. Waitangi is the one that we do every year. And then each year it might be that there's something different because a friend or a peer has opened up a space for us. But Waitangi will be our always go to every February.
Yeah. And so that looks like what, like if someone signs up to come with you guys to Waitangi, what does that look like for them?
So it's a 4-day hikoi, is what we call it. And it's a mixture of visiting sites. So Rangihaua Bay, Marsden Cross is where we start, and we hear from a local kaumātua there tell us about the whenua, his whakapapa there, the stories there, hear about Samuel Marsden and the famous Christmas Day preaching of the gospel. We also have a lot of time and space right at Te Tiriti, participating in the commemorations, and also when and if needed and wanted, help out with Te Tiriti with some of the practical logistics, because there's thousands and thousands of people that embark on Waitangi each commemorations. And so it might be that we're picking up rubbish, or just where it might be that we can help through participation. We'll hear from some of the descendants of Henry Williams, who is our namesake, nicknamed Karuwhā for wearing glasses, 4 eyes. So we hear from his descendants, learn about some of the history from the lens of that whānau. We have a church service, and then some different kōrero debrief sessions to unpack what we're seeing, what we're experiencing. And for those that are game, we stay at the campground. So it's 4 nights with 100 other people camping alongside them, meeting people from all over Aotearoa that are equally interested in what does this mean for us, living right now in Aotearoa.
I think that that whole service mindset that you go in with is a really important one. In my conversations with Māori, one of the things that they've found challenging is when Pākehā get excited about this new stuff they're discovering, but it's all take, and they find that really hard. And so to hear you guys going, actually, we're providing some education, but alongside that, we're giving opportunity for service. So it's not all about taking. It's about growth, but it's also about honour and care for our country, our treaty partners. I guess I want to talk what you guys are doing with that, because I think that's really, really good. What are the sort of people that come along to these? Like, where do they come from? Are they all young people, or is it a mix? All Pākehā, or what does that look like?
A mix in age, a mix in location. People from a bunch down from your way, from Otetahi came up. Some from the rest of the South Island, right up to Invercargill, Kirikiri, Papamoa, Tauranga Moana. So it's awesome to have such a mix from across the motu, across the nation. Again, mix of age. We get a bunch of awesome, enthusiastic young 20-year-olds, which is super helpful when we're on bouncy castle duties. And then we get some beautiful whaia, kuia, kaumātua that are joining us and, wanting to learn something different from what they've previously been hearing, I guess, from the mainstream dialogue. Mostly Pākehā. I think being a ropu that names itself Karuwhā, we're looking at the descendants of Henry Williams as a missionary. Definitely, there's Māori with us. However, the dominant group is Pākehā that are, I think, as well. Those are ones that have been living within another story. Again, generalizing. And I think what you said before about going in with an attitude of service, if that's appropriate, if that's wanted, is being careful not to wanting to be a consumer yet again. Because this can be a story can end up being a product for lack of better insight. So trying to be really careful how we use this new knowledge, what's the process in obtaining this new knowledge, and how are we then contributing to the space that we've just been in.
You talk about the stories that people have been living out of, and I guess that's the way I like to talk about things too, that we've got this way that we understand the world to be, and essentially it's like a story that's been told to us, and then sometimes we find that not everything fits within that story. What are the sorts of things that people are the most surprised by, or people say, oh man, I never knew that, or those kind of things? What are the things that regularly come up for people when they're in your space?
I think the understanding, or the new understanding, that there is a place for us at Waitangi, and I don't say that as an ownership sense, but actually, again, being a treaty partner, there's a place for us there. The treaty was for us to understand our role and positioning there, and so yes, we are welcome there because we're actually needed and required there, and from that, it really does help fuel the I think the view of how we live out the treaty. So I think that's been a big one. People knowing, oh, okay, Waitangi is for me, and it's like absolutely, like it is for us, and we need to have a much greater understanding of why it's for us, and then if it's for us, what do we do about it? But knowing that there's actually almost a required place for us within Waitangi.
Do you think that comes back to just really poor education about Te Tiriti, or is it a bigger thing even than that?
Both and. Yeah, I think both and. I think when you live in the dominant population, which then has been receiving dominant privileges, there's almost an option to live without the treaty. Because I can go about my day to day and get by quite fine. I wouldn't say at all spiritually or in all those things fine, but on a surface level, you can kind of get away with it. Um, and that's often a case in various dominant communities. However, by acknowledging Te Tiriti or Waitangi is actually, like I guess I've been saying a few times, acknowledges a responsibility and actually requires us to accept we're not meant to be dominant. We're meant to be in partnership. We're meant to be supporting one another. We're meant to be acknowledging a people group that were here before us. Yeah.
What do you find most rewarding about what you do?
I love meeting people from across the country that are coming together for a shared desire of learning. Often in these times, there's folk that are on pretty potentially lonely journeys. They've had a thought, they're trying to make a change, but seeing the vibe of a big group come together, and they're encouraged by seeing others also, wanting to make these shifts in self.
On the back of all the stuff that you're doing, what hope do you see for Aotearoa?
Oh, that's a big one, Andy. That's a big one. I have a saying here. So being recently married, we don't have children yet, but we have hopes for children. One of my sayings is, "How would that be for my daughter?" Or did I see my daughter there? So if I go to an event, or if I go to this, that, the other, I look around and I was like, oh, do I see my daughter here? Or would my daughter be comfortable here? With my husband being Māori, that will be her whakapapa. And so my hope as a positive being is that there will be more spaces that my kōrero, my daughter, will be comfortable in, more spaces that she will be invited to be in, and be able to express all herself, all aspects of herself, and that she won't be in any space that whakaiti, minimises, or discriminates against all that she beautifully is. So my hope is always around looking at the future for the next generation. I'm realistic enough to know that it's not going to happen in my time, but have hope that it can be a different Aotearoa, one that does celebrate different cultures and does support and give to other cultures, and allows those voices that haven't been dominant to come back and have their rightful place.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think, like you say, it's important to acknowledge, you can have that hope without thinking it's going to happen tomorrow. But that doesn't mean it's not worth working towards. And like you say, there are those coming after us that hopefully will reap the benefits of the work that you guys are doing, and others around doing that sort of thing as well. With all the stories that you hear and the presentations that you hear, do you have any kind of favourites of things that maybe you didn't know, and then suddenly you became aware of this, like something that happened in our past, that is something that you find fascinating or encouraging, or any of those kind of stories that really resonate with you?
It won't be a specific one, but a general one that we heard again up at Waitangi recently was hearing about some of those first interactions between Māori and Pākehā. For the most part, it wasn't great. However, now and again you hear of some positive stories, and I don't say that to try to reclaim a better history. However, I say that in the renewed hope, like, oh, hey, they did it awesome. There's hope to do it awesome again. So hearing, I love relationships. I love those narratives around different human interactions. So hearing stories of those different relationships that have gone really well, I find really inspiring. And then another one, not a new one, but one that I could hear every month and continue to be inspired by is Parihaka, hearing the leadership from there, and I think that continues to, well, it's an invitation for how we're outworking some of this, and the grace and the love that they continue to operate is, a beautiful inspiration to, carry on our thoughts with.
And for those who haven't heard the story of Parihaka, I'll put some links in the show notes to go and have a read about that, so that you can find out about that, because it is just a phenomenal story in our history that so many of us grew up without the chance to know. And so, it's great that it's starting to become more widely known.
Yeah, awesome.
What advice do you have for, like, if someone's listening to this and they're thinking, I'm Pākehā, I haven't really engaged in this at all, what advice do you have for someone in that sort of space?
Something I said in our closing up at Waitangi to Aotearoa, as we were closing up, so they were about to head back to their own homes, their kāinga, was I invited people to start to think about the area that they live in. So everywhere that we live, there is a hapu, there is a iwi, and there is a local story. So I think if we were to start anywhere from me, that would be my little tip. Start to learn who it is that you're living amongst. Learn, if you rent a house, or you might have even bought a house, learn about the history, even if it's simply knowing the name of the hapu, the iwi, of the whenua that you're actually standing on every day. And from that, you'll then can look at, which marae is there, what is happening at that local marae. But I think that's a really simple way to start.
If someone wanted to get involved in what you guys are doing, to come to participate, or even just to support what it is that you're doing, how would they go about that?
So we're on your usual social media spaces, Instagram, Facebook, and our website, all under Karuwhā. Again, Karuwhā for. You can flick us a message through there, or check out some of our photos to see past haerenga, upcoming haerenga, or hui. And then again, the website will link you into some different resources, some of the in-depth thesis, or also some shorter papers that will hopefully project you into some new or increased learning.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate the kōrero, and appreciate hearing your heart for our country, for this beautiful partnership that has potential to continue to grow and flourish within Aotearoa. So thank you for what you do to help to bring a bit of heaven down to earth.
Thanks, Andy. Great to be with you. And awesome for myself as well. Just even reflect again, on these hopes, these dreams, and what it might take to get there. So ngā mihi nui ki a koe.
Hello heaven. Will I hear you whisper to come near?
And ngā mihi nui ki a koe to you also, Naomi. You're an inspiration for us to continue to learn in knowledge and understanding of the history of the places that we live, whether that's here in New Zealand or somewhere else in the world. And you remind us that these courageous conversations about race are ever so important. As I mentioned, in the show notes I've put a link to the story of Parihaka, which actually includes the documentary The Children of Parihaka, which is well worth a watch. While many in New Zealand don't know about Parihaka, it was actually one of the stories that inspired Mahatma Gandhi and also a number of other notable non-violence movements around the world. So it is really important, particularly if you are a New Zealander, to get to know this story, to be inspired by this story, and to be able to share that story with others as well. As is my custom, here is a blessing I offer to Naomi. Naomi, may you continue to experience the joy of gathering together with others to learn and to grow, and may those gatherings bear fruit in your own life and the lives of those around you. May you always know you have a place to stand here, and may you continue well in the work that standing demands. May the relationships you already have grow and flourish as you humbly invite others into those relational spaces, and may others hear of the good work of Karuwhā and open more doors to you in the future. When you have a daughter or a son, may they know their standing in the world, and may they see the difference that their mama has created in the world on their behalf. And may you be filled with joy with each moment that is a little easier for them because of the paths you have trodden. And finally, just like the namesake of your rōpū, Karuwhā, as you look through more than your own natural eyes, may you continue to find new clarity and new life in the world around you. As usual, thanks to Strawn for the music and Rangi for the ending karakia, which is the Lord's Prayer for those who don't know. And thank you all again for joining me. If you're enjoying what you hear, please follow us on Facebook or Instagram and share the posts. And I would be absolutely thrilled if you wanted to rate and review the podcast on iTunes or Spotify. It makes it easier for others to find out about the podcast, and I would just love you to bits if you went and did that for me. Join me next time when I talk to Australian poet, writer, social justice advocate and inspiring human being Joel Mikero. We talk about changing faith, writing books, social justice, creativity and much, much more. Another inspiring kōrero. Until then, me inoi tātou.
E tō mātou matua I te rangi, kia tapu tō ingoa, kia tau mai tō rangatiratanga, kia mea te tau e pai ai ki runga ki te whenua, kia rite anō ki tō te rangi. Humai kia mātou ai nei, he taro mā mātou mō tēnei rā. Muro o mātou hara, me mātou hoki e muru nei I o te hunga, e hara ana kia mātou. Aua hoki mātou e kawea, kia whakawaia. Engari whakaorangi a mātou I te kino. Amen.